Hello and greetings everyone. In this video I'm going to show you how to install a new PC with a water cooling system. We are going to be fixing the water blocks on the GPU, CPU and the motherboard, and then we are going to install the components of the water cooling system, the reservoir, the pump and the pipes. And after that we are going to test run our system after installing all of these components. So this is the components we are going to use in our installation. First, we have the power supply from EVGA SuperNOVA, and this is 1300 watts. Very powerful and very quiet. For the hard disks, we have 3 hard disks from Western Digital and 1 SSD from OCZ. These hard disks are the auxiliary hard disk, and this one is OCZ SSD Trion 150, which I am going to use for my games. This is very fast, like a competitor for the Samsung. For the operating system, I am using the M2 SSD built in on the motherboard. The motherboard is the MAXIMUS 7 Ranger, and it is well known for gamers for overclocking. It has 2 slots for SLI or Crossfire. The operating system I am using is an M2 950 from Samsung, 950 Pro. For the CPU I am using i7 4700 with 4 GHz speed. I'm going to be installing the water block on the CPU as well as the motherboard chipset. The RAM I am using is Corsair Vengeance with a total of 32 GB, 8 for each. This is running on 2400 MHz. For the GPU, the graphic card, I am going to use the GTX 900 Ti from EVGA, super clocked and with backplate. I'm going to install a water block as well on this one for the water cooling. Okay, so these are the components for the water cooling system. The first one is the 360 radiator from XSPC, and then we have the smaller one, 240 radiator from XSPC as well. And then we have 4 elbows, rotating elbows. That's very useful when congested area. And then we have the flow meter that indicates the water flow is going on. And then we have the centrifugal pump. This is one of the best pumps in the market that takes suction from the middle and rotates counterclockwise and then discharges from the other side. This is the motherboard chipset water block. This is what we are going to install on the Asus MAXIMUS Ranger 7. This is from Equip and it is specially designed for that specific motherboard. This is the cutting and trimming tools for the pipes from XSPC. This is one of the best tools really, and very handy when dealing with the pipes, bending and cutting. And I'm going to show you later on how it is done. This is the tank or the reservoir for the water. There is several sizes that comes in the market, from 15 centimeter until 25 centimeter or 250 mm. The size of this water tank is 150 or 15 centimeter. And then we have the CPU water block. This is from AlphaCool. This has a very good feedback from the customers. Of course there is another like thermal take, but this is my preferring. These are the fittings that we are going to use along with the pipes. I'm going to show you later on how it is fixed. After that we have the GPU. This is specially for GTX 980 Ti. This is from Koolance market. As per the feedback, it's very light and very efficient. So first thing first, we are going to install the GPU cooler, the water cooling block that is designed for the GTX 980 Ti. This is going to replace the ordinary fan coolers. And it's disconnected. This is how the board looks like, and we are going to disassemble the back plate and the front plate so we can install the water block properly. Now we have removed the front plate and the back plate, and we can see that there is remnants of the thermal paste from the old cooler. We need to clean it out before installing the new water block. We are going to use a medical wipe or alcohol. This is a very good cleaner for thermal paste, as it cleans thoroughly and it dries very fast. So we have cleaned the GPU and the RAM chipsets around it. And for the RAM, we are not going to use the thermal paste. Instead, we are going to use thermal pads. These pads are cut with the same size of the chipsets, and then it is placed between the RAM chipsets and the water block. You have to cover all of them and do not miss any so it can transfer the heat. These chipsets produce very high temperature when working, so you have to make sure that you cover all of these with these thermal pads. Now we have completed covering all the chipsets with the thermal pads. Now to match the water block on what we have installed, it looks exactly the same, and it should cover all the grooves in the water block, which will guarantee a very efficient heat transfer. The only remaining is the GPU, which will be using the thermal paste instead of thermal pads. This is a thermal paste from Cool. You can use any thermal paste in the market. A small amount will be sufficient, like this one. So by this, we have completed installing the water block on the graphic card, the GTX 980 Ti, and it fits perfectly. And I have installed as well the back plate along with it. By this, we have completed our job towards the graphics card. It is time we move on to the motherboard installation process. Now that we have completed installing the water block for the graphic card. Now we are going for the motherboard, chipset and CPU. To remove the chipset heatsink, we have to remove first the back plate on the back of the motherboard. We have 2 bolts, 2 screws on each back plate. We need to remove these. We are going to use a Phillips screwdriver. Now that we removed the back plate, we are going to remove the top plate. These heat sinks are the ones covering the chipsets on the motherboard. These chipsets with L shape needs to be covered by the new water block. Now we are going to fix the water block on the motherboard chipset. This water block is designed and manufactured by EKWB company. This is designed for the MAXIMUS 7 motherboards, which will fit exactly on the top of the chipsets. Now we need to install thermal pads, same as we have done with the graphic card, and we need to ensure that it covers all the chipsets, same as before. This will be cut exactly the same size with the L shape of this water block. When you complete installing the thermal pads, put it directly on the top of the chipsets and install the back plate as before. It will be used to hold the water block as well as covering the chipsets from behind. Okay, so it is the turn of the CPU water block. I'm using here Cool CPU water block. This water block comes with different sizes that it can fit AMD and Intel processors. The inlet will be in the middle and the outlet will be on the side. The bracket that comes with it can fit to LGA 1150 and 1151, so you can make it even on the 6th generation of the CPUs. You have to apply thermal paste as well, like what we have done in the GPU. Alright, installation of the water block of the CPU has successfully completed. By this, we have finished the work of installing the water blocks on both the motherboard and the GPU. Now we are going to install the components inside the case. The case we are going to use in our project is Corsair 600C. This is one of the best made PC cases in the market. very compact, very small, yet very big. It is considered full tower that can handle E-ATX motherboard. However, it is considerably having a very small dimensional size. This is what I like so much about this case. As you can see that it contains 8 PCI slots, which means you can put E-ATX motherboards, install it inside it. The power supply will be on the top, hidden. This side will have the cable management and this side will have the water cooling system and the open area. The cable management will be on the left side. There is plenty of space there, as you can see later on in the video. The door, as you can see, it is from the right side. This case is called inverted case. Normally the PC cases are open from the left side, from the other side. This side contains the cable management. However, in this case, the right side is the open area and the left side is the cable management area, which makes it very unique and very beautiful. When opening the case, you will realize that it has 2 slots for hard disks and 3 slots for SSDs. The installation is quite simple. Just push and clip. That's it. The hard disk installation, almost as easy as it is. Clip it inside with the pre-installed pins. And slide it back. There you have it. As you can see, it has 2 slots for hard disks. However, I have 3 hard disks, so I need to have 1 more place to install it. The power supply will be here, so there is no way that I can install it here. You will see later on how can I do it. In the front side of the case, there is 2 compartments for optical drive. However, all I need is 1 single optical drive. So I might be as well utilizing the lower compartment for my 3rd hard disk. There is a problem though. The optical drive fits exactly in this bracket, while the hard disk is too small to fit inside. There is an additional pieces that needs to be installed in the hard disk in order to make it fit inside the compartment. These brackets are sold separately and you can find it in the internet. This will make 2.5 inch fit at 3.5 inch compartments. Fits like a glove. Now after doing the cable management, I'm going to remove the standard 140 mm fans which are installed already in the case, because I'm going to install two radiators, one 360 mm radiator which will be using 3 fans 120 mm, and another radiator 240 mm which will be using 2 fans 120 mm. Now I have finished connecting all the connectors, all the wires to the motherboard, and you can see how I made my cable management from behind. This is the best arrangement I could come up with. So when you make your own, you will have to decide what is best for you and what is best for your computer, and how to line up the wires in the best way. Okay, after installing the motherboard and arranging the cables, now we are going to speak about the airflow and where are we going to install the heat exchangers. As you can see at the bottom, we have air inlet. There is a filter installed at the bottom. This will prevent any dust or any small particles going with the air. It will prevent it from entering the motherboard compartment. This will keep your inside of the case always clean. The airflow will be from the bottom, going through the compartment, and exits from the back. This is the normal airflow direction. You will have another filter from the front of the case, which allows the air to enter from the front of the case again to the motherboard compartment and exits from the back. In the front opening, we are going to use the 240 radiator. This will be cooled by the air entering the compartment from this side. At the bottom, we are going to use the 360 radiator, and this will be cooled from the air entering the compartment from the bottom of the case. The fans will be set on the top, and the air direction will be from the bottom to the top. For the fans, we are going to use Corsair AF120mm. These fans are known to be very quiet and very efficient. It rotates at 1100 rounds per minute, and it has only 21 decibel, and this is very, very quiet. The fans will be fixed 3 at the bottom and 2 at the front, allowing the air direction to go as per planned. Okay, so I have installed the fans on the radiator. However, if you can see that the ring is supposed to be on the top, however, I installed it at the bottom. The reason is the direction of the fan airflow. If I want to make it the way I want it, so I had to flip it. Just let me focus on that one so you can see the direction of the airflow. The air inlet is from the ring side and exits from the bottom. That is why I flipped it upside down to ensure that the airflow is going from the bottom to the top. These elbows can rotate in different directions. It can rotate 360 degrees from all sides, which makes it perfect for congested areas, and it can allow the pipeline goes from the radiator in different angles. I have 4 of these just in case. Fans fixed, radiators fixed, and rotating elbows fixed. We are done from this part. These are the fittings that is used to be fixed in the water blocks and used to connect each other by water pipes. Every fittings has its own pipe size, so when you buy a circuit, you have to make sure that these fittings matches the pipe size, otherwise it will not hold. What I really like about XSPC fittings is that they have double seal from the inside. As you can see it, there is 2 double seal inside, and when we fix a pipe, we will use a 3rd seal from the outside. This will ensure that the pipe is tightened and it will never leak. Now fixing the graphics card. Okay, just a small diversion from our process. As I mentioned before, that I have my operating system installed in Samsung 950 Pro M2 SSD card. This is installed on board. However, the M2 socket on board supports only 1x speed. That is why I'm going to install it in this PCI interface. This will allow you to run your card on 4x speed. This is provided by Asus because the MAXIMUS Ranger 7 M2 socket supports only 1x. You cannot go more than that, and that will be something like 800 megabyte per second. However, if you install it in the PCI Express interface, you will get 4x speed, which means you can run at 2500 megabyte per second. That will be very convenient and very fast for your operating system. You would like to make your PC looks fancy, so these are LED lights sold at the market. This is 1 meter LED light, white colored. This, after finishing and installing all the crystal-like pipes, this will look awesome when I turn it on. This is the water tank, the water reservoir. This will work as a collector of the water in the system. In the bottom, you will have 2 holes. One goes to the pump that will pump the water to the system. The other one is receiving the water from the system as a return. After all the water goes inside the system, it will go back to the reservoir and keep the level the same. From the top, you will find 3 holes. This one is for ventilating air. There are small holes. If you press the top head, it will release any air trapped inside. The other one is for refilling with the water. And the third one is used if you are going to use any LED light to make the tank looks fancy. This tank will be fixed in this area. I have already arranged that this will be the right place for the tank to be fixed. At this level, I will make sure that everything below it is filled with water. The pump will be directly beneath it, and these will hold the tank through the grid. as we will see now. One of the best fittings I have is 90 degrees rotary fittings. This is very useful when you are dealing with very congested areas. As you can see that it can rotate 360 degrees and it is 90 degrees curved. I fixed it in the bottom of the reservoir due to the congested area between it and the water pump, as well as receiving it from the system. Okay, now everything is fixed. The only remaining thing is the pipelines that connects everything to everything. All the elbows, fittings, connectors are all now completed. The water reservoir is very high level. This to ensure that all the system is filled with water. When I fill the water at this level, I will ensure that everything else beneath it is filled with water. The only area that goes little bit upper than that is the 240 heat exchanger. This radiator will have little bit amount where it will flow back to the reservoir and fill it 1.5 to 2 centimeter up. Other than that, all the system will be filled with water. The benefit of having the reservoir higher than anything else is that you ensure that the system is free of air. There is no air trapped beneath it. That's the best thing about it. Okay, now we come to the important part, the pipelines. What pipelines we are using? Generally, there are two types of pipelines used in the water cooling system. One is called the acrylic tubes, the other one is the PETG or the polyethylene. So what is the PET? It is this one. The polyethylene is the plastics that it is used in the water cans and soft drinks. Generally, it's a clear plastic, very flexible, and can be reshaped if heat applied to it. In this case, we are going to apply heat so we can bend it and reshape it on the way we are favoring for our cooling water system. So some people, they are preferring acrylic. So what is acrylic? Acrylic is a much harder plastic than the PETG or the polyethylene tubes. Acrylic needs more heat in order to be reshaped, not like the PETG. However, it is more transparent, more clear than the PETG. Once you know that the windshield of airplanes is made of acrylic, you will be convinced that this material is very hard and it can endure so much heat, not like the PETG. However, the PETG beats the acrylic in one factor: chemical reaction. The PETG is less chemical reactant with other chemicals, which means that after some times when you're using too much chemicals in the fluid which goes inside it, it will not react with it. Thus, it will not become hazy over time. However, debates goes which one is better for the cooling water system. So in my case, I prefer the PETG. And in this trial, I will show you how to apply heat, how to bend it, and how to use the trimming tool for reshaping and making the perfect shape. This toolbox is sold and made by XSPC. This is an easy tool for cutting the tubes. Some people they are using normal saw, but this one is much better and very precise. This one comes a whole package with the bending tool. The bending tool allows you to bend the tubes after heating it to any degrees you want, from 45 to 90 to even 180. You can create a U-shape tube. I'm going to show you how are we applying the heat to the tubes. This is a normal heat gun. You can buy it from any electrical shop. This is 1700 watts, pretty hot when it goes full. And this is what we are going to use to apply heat on the tubes. The best thing about this design, it has a base beneath it so it can stand without any support. Applying heat on the tubes to get the best shape and the best result, it needs lots of patience. So if you are not the patient type, then I believe you will end up damaging most of the tubes that you need to use when applying the heat. It is this silicone line. This silicone line shall go inside the tube before applying the heat. This will prevent it from damaging and overbending the tube when you are applying the heat. It will keep it on the same circle shape. And we are going to demonstrate what will happen if we use it without the silicone, if we overheat it, and if we did not use the bending tool. Now we are going to demonstrate how to overheat it. What will happen if we overheat the tube? Here we are. You can see the effect of overheating the tube. What has happened? Can you see the bubbles? There is bubble formation inside the tube, and if you can see that it is uneven bent. The tube has bended in a very horrible way. This tube is useless to the system. So you have to be careful when applying the heat on the tubes in order to bend it. This is one live example. Okay, now let's make another tube, and this time we will be more patient. We will apply less heat and we will take more time. However, I'm not going to use the bending tool, so we can know the difference between manually bending it by hand and by using the bending tool instead. Let us see. Now the job is completed and it looks very nice, 90 degrees. However, is it as efficient as if we used the bending tool? let us check. This is the bending tool, and you can see from the first glance that it is not bent correctly. Now let us try another one, and this time we are going to use the bending tool. The tube is finished, and you can see that it is very high quality finished. This is a comparison between it and the first one. There is clearly big difference between the first one, which was made manually, and the second one, which was made by the bending tool. Now when installing the pipe to the fitting, you need something else in order to make it fit properly. You have to sharpen the edges from the outside and the inside by this tool. This tool, it can sharpen the edge from the outside, and when you flip it, you can sharpen it from the inside. This will make good curves to the edges, so when it's installed inside the fitting, it will be fit properly. So after doing that, you will need a seal. You will put the lock first, then install the seal, insert it in the fitting, and then just lock it, and that's it. You are done. When buying a circuit, you have to ensure that the fittings and the pipes are matching in size. Now the tube cutting and bending job is over. We have all the necessary lines to connect everything to everything. All the edges have been sharpened so it can fit in the fittings properly. All is remaining is to connect the system. Okay, so the system now is connected and it's ready for water filling. I have arranged the tubing so the pump will discharge directly to the CPU, and the CPU outlet will go to the motherboard chipset. It will cool it down, and then the outlet will go to Radiator 360 at the bottom. It will be cooled down by the airflow, and then the outlet of this radiator will go directly to the GPU water block. It will cool down my graphics card, and then the outlet will go to Radiator 240, where it will be cooled down, and then it will be sent back to the water reservoir. There is a water flow that will give me an indication that the pump is running well. Finally, my system is complete. The remaining now is to fill the system with the water. There are so many fluids in the market designed for water cooling systems. However, in my system, I'm going to use a distilled water. This is the same water that is used in car batteries. The best thing about this one is it is free of cations and anions, so it is less conductive, thus very safe for the system. How are we going to pour it inside the system? This is a very simple device, a hand pump. This can be found in any service shop. It will take the section from the bottle, and the discharge we will put it directly to the reservoir with just hand pressing. Be careful when filling the reservoir not to overfill it. And you will see after some time the air trapped inside the system will start going out. And that's where you will need to add more water until all the air trapped in the system is taken out by the pressure of the water. You might as well tilt your PC case and lean it on the sides to help the air trapped inside the system to escape. As you can see, there are some amount of air start coming out. I'm going to start my system for a couple of seconds, only just to start the pump so it can push the water and force it to the system, allowing the air to go out. Be careful when doing this move, your hand should be on the switch. Switch off immediately once the water level goes very low. As you can see that the level was pushed to the system. Now I have to refill it again. Now we have filled the reservoir again. Let's do the system once more. Can you see the water level start stabilizing as the system start to be filled with water only? At this point, you will need to refill the tank just a little bit up, as there will be some air trapped inside the system, and by the system running it will be released slowly, and you will see that the water level in the reservoir drops little by little until the whole system is all free of air. There are jumpers sold in the market that will be connected directly to the power supply. It will trick the power supply that the motherboard is on, and it will keep the power supply always running. This will allow your system, your pump, to keep running even if your motherboard is off. It is recommended to keep the system running in circulation for at least 8 hours. By this, you will ensure that any air trapped in the system is released, and you can stabilize the water level after that. Make sure that all the fittings are tight, there is no sign of moisture or any water dripping. Check it from time to time as long as the system running for the first time. You don't want any water dripping in your system. That will be very bad. From the motherboard settings, everything looks normal. The temperature for the CPU is almost 33 Celsius centigrade, and for the motherboard it is between 27 and 28 Celsius. If you notice that the only fan running is the CPU fan, that's because the water pump for the system is connected to the CPU fan socket in the motherboard. Hence, you can control the water pump speed by controlling the CPU fan speed from the motherboard settings. This how it works. The remaining fans, which I use for the radiators, are connected directly to the power supply. Now that I have tested the motherboard temperature, it's time that I benchmark my graphics card. I'm going to use Unigine application. I will use extreme and ultra settings for my graphics card to stress the GPU and check about the temperature rising. In the past, my graphics card on these settings will reach up to 80 degrees Celsius, and the frame rate will start dropping because of the software lock on the system. But I can see it now, it's very smooth. Temperature is about 33. As you can see, it's only 33 degrees Celsius, and the frame rate is steady on 60 frames per second. That is fabulous. Now I'm going to run benchmarking tests so we can check what type of score we can reach. By this, the benchmarking test has complete, and as you can see, we got 1481 as a score, the FPS 58.8, maximum 62.3, and the minimum is 30.1. These are good figures. With the base clock speed of the graphics card, no overclocking, with custom ultra extreme settings. By this, guys, I have successfully completed the water cooling project, and my PC is finally back to work. I am proud really about what I have done, because it took a long time to be completed. Simply because I wasn't free all the time to do this whole stuff in one shot. I am having a regular daily duty from 7 AM until 3:30 PM. And by the time I reach home, sit with the family and have some dinner, I only got 1 to 1.5 hours daily, and that's the only time that I got every day to attend to this work. That's why it took me 2 weeks to complete this whole project, from the beginning of the video until the time of recording this message. Progress was very slowly, however I am very pleased that I have completed and I got my PC back to work. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you are one of those enthusiasts who build similar sets, I hope I succeeded in adding any information that could help you in your line of work. And for those guys who are watching for entertainment, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much and wish you a pleasant day.